Good morning, everyone. Hope you're having a great morning after Halloween last night if you're watching this live. I have to admit, I'm kind of having a hard time getting my head on straight. We weren't up terribly late last night, but oh gosh, I should have had another caffeine. So I'm glad I'm doing this with you because I always get charged up when we do these lectures. We got Brandley and we've got Julie and Bridger. Fantastic. Folks are working their way in. Phenomenal to have you today. Let me go ahead and pull up our lecture and I'll show you what we're doing. Hey, Jake. So first of all, I'm sorry, puppy. I got a puppy right here, right in the way of where the green screen goes. I'm sorry, puppy. Here we go. Yeah, she wanted to hang out there at the feet, but you know, that's just the way it is. So, yeah, we're talking a little bit more about capitalism and the results, kind of the outcome of capitalism. You know, if you remember back a little while ago, one of the quotes from one of the readings was, you know, this free market capitalism, all the things came in and created thrash that continued well onto the 19th century. And I made the case that, this crap is still going on, right? Well, what we're going to look at today is kind of the initial, you know, how do I put it? The damage? I don't know if we want to say damage. Let's just say results because there's pros and cons, right? Pros and cons. Hey, Faith. So let's look at some of the initial results and the challenges this created and how people are addressing these challenges. And we're actually going to start off with Lady Chatterley's Lover. A chapter from Lady Chatterley's Lover. So don't ever say that I don't bring you the very best pornography out there. Yeah, Lady Chatterley's Lover was banned when it first came out as pornography because, oh my gosh, a married woman, lovers, But we're actually going to explore a chapter of it today. Now, as we do this, I want you to bear something in mind. Okay, here's kind of an overall construct I would like you to kind of set in your mind as we talk about this chapter. The most important thing you need to be successful in a capitalist system is access to capital, right? There's a reason it's called capitalism. It's not called laissez-faireism. It's not called profit motivism. It's not called free marketism. It's called capitalism because capital is key in all things. All right. And this trauma, this thrash that the previous reading was referring to it in the sense of labor versus capital, meaning employees versus employers. Employers have the capital, they have the factories, they have the money, they have the investments, all that. The employees have the skills and the actual labor that makes all this capital actually worth money. Okay, there's our construct. Let's go ahead and start up. Now, we're about to talk about this chapter. There's going to be two people in this, basically, well, it's a chapter in a fiction book. There's two main characters. We've got Clifford and Connie. All right. Connie is Lady Chatterley, so that you know. Okay. And Clifford is her husband. And Clifford owns a mine. Whenever I say that, I have this vision of Gimli in Lord of the Rings. And he calls it a mine, when they go into Moria. Anyway, where was I? Clifford owns a mine. And so he owns a mine. Now, the way it works back then, and to some extent today, okay, but especially back then, the person would own a mine, but they would also own the town that supported the mine. And in this town, they would own the stores, and they would own all the resources, and they would own all the housing. So this person, this company, would own all the resources, all the town, all the stores, all the everything in this area. And so you would come and you would work in the mine, and then you would pay the rent. That was part of your pay. You would buy at the company store, but you were always a little short because they didn't pay you enough. So they would run up a tab. You would run up credit at the company store to get the things you need to survive. Well, you can't leave for a whole variety of reasons, but one of them is you owe your soul to the company store. Google that sometime. I owe my soul to the company store. That was an old song that you've never heard, but it was big back when my great-grandfather was a kid, lamenting that you're in this perpetual state of debt, because you're getting deeper and deeper in debt the more and more you work. It's messed up. So that's the context for the chapter that we're about to read in Lady Chatterley's Lover. So let's go ahead and read one of the things. So Lady Chatterley, Connie, is saying, you don't pay your workers enough. You don't pay them enough. They can't survive and live. We need to share more of our wealth. And Clifford says in retort, he says, the point is not take all thou hast and give it to the poor, but use all thou hast and encourage the industry and give work to the poor. It's the only way to feed all the mouths and clothe all the bodies. Giving away all we have to the poor spells starvation for the poor just as much as for us. Now, he's saying this in response to the argument of the Christian response, give to the poor, right? Or the Christian commandment, give to the poor, support the poor, and so forth. And he says, well, that doesn't mean give all you have to the poor, right? But I want to let's explore something here, right? He says, giving away all we have to the poor spells starvation for the poor. Now, nobody says you need to give all you have to the poor, right? Well, actually, Jesus did at one point, but let's just leave that alone for a moment, right? Let's just explore the idea for a moment. Giving to the poor spells starvation for the poor. Now, the question I have is, why would somebody like Clifford, who's a privileged landowner, owns a mine, so on and so forth, why would someone like him feel that giving to the poor wouldn't really help the poor? Okay? Now, we're going to just think of Clifford, but the same sentiment exists today. So give me your thoughts. Why would Clifford think something like that? Let's explore this for a moment. Okay, let's take a look at these. Very good. So remember, we're assuming what he would think, right? So we're not making our own value judgments here, and you folks have chimed in on that very well. So Bridger says, he may have the assumption that the poor will misuse the money and waste it away. I agree. This is something that we still kind of see today. If we give to a panhandler, for example, it is easier to assume, oh, they're just going to buy drugs and alcohol. Why are you making that assumption? On what do you base that, right? This is a stereotype. This is a prejudice. And I agree with you, Bridger. I think that, what's his name? Clifford just says, they don't know how to manage money and they're just going to waste it and so on and so forth. Okay. Julie says he gave all his money to the poor. He may also lose workers causing him problems. Oh, Julie. We're going to come to that one. We are going to come to that one because whether he means that or not deliberately, he's thinking it in the back of his head, right? He's going to say something pretty soon that's going to make you think, Julie's onto something. Okay, Jake, I think if you have money in surplus and you are religious, you start to thinking about what you can do to help those around you best, right? I like that. How do you help somebody best? It's the effective altruism sort of thing. How can you affect the greatest good for the funds that you have? And since I agree with Bridger, he's going to think that they're going to just waste the money and piddle it away because they don't know how to manage money. They're going to get drunk and blah, blah, blah. He's like, we need to take care of them. And so we get a very paternalistic attitude from Clifford. And what I mean by paternalistic is he sees the workers as children, just little irresponsible, lost children who need me to help take care of them. And they don't know what's best for them. I know what's best for them. Okay, now, this is important because this is counter to the free market system. Free market says the person who knows what's best for you is you. And so you should be allowed to use your resources the way that you feel are best. Now, on this thing about the poor will just waste it and so forth, here's one thing I like to point out. When you think of a poor person, if I say, hey, think of a poor person, describe them. Somebody may, and I'm not saying you would, I am just saying somebody may. Somebody may say, well, a panhandler, a little unkempt and disheveled and a little bit of beard and crazy hair and hasn't bathed in, 20 days and losing some teeth. That's what a poor person looks like. Now, I'm not saying you would say that. I'm just saying somebody may. However, I can tell you exactly what a poor person looks like. They look like you. Yeah. I know we have we have a whole bunch of different learners with us, a bunch of different students. So I can't speak for everybody, but indulge me for a moment. If you're a 19, 20, 21, 22-year-old kid, you're an adult, in school, living in an apartment or living with your parents, you're poor. You're really, really, really poor. And yet you are living an impressive lifestyle and have access to quite a few funds, which we'll talk about in future lectures, because people are giving to the poor, giving to you. 60% of your tuition is subsidized by the state. We don't consider that giving to the poor. We consider that an investment. When you get money, you spend it on what you think you can get the most return out of it. And when your parents and others give you resources or time or what have you, this is seen as an investment. So it's interesting how we often think, well, yeah, okay, I might be 19 years old and poor, but I'm different. It's like, no. Capitalism believes that we can all make the best decisions for ourselves, and we don't need a big brother to look up after us. Okay. Shane says, plus more education means more income, usually. Agreed. Which means more money for the state taxes. Not only is that, that's like so true. So true, right? Which he's going to talk about in a moment, right? Okay. You guys are getting it. Let's come on back here. Yeah, we'll push that button. So at one point, Connie says, but you make them work for you. They live the life, of your coal mine. And Clifford says, not at all. Every beetle finds his own food. No, not one man is forced to work for me. Not one man is forced to work for me. Okay, here's our next question. We're going to get points today. I felt bad that we didn't have enough dialogue last time, so I'm going to get you points. Okay, I grant you that nobody is grabbing the workers by the hands and forcing them to work. However, I make the assertion that in point of fact, they are forced to work for him. All right. Now, I will explain my reasoning, but I want you to either make the case, no, they are not forced to work for him and support that case, or say, yes, circumstances for all intents and purposes create an environment in which they are forced to work for him, and explain why. So support your side on each side, and then I will make my assertion, and then we can all make up our own minds. Okay? So let's play with this. Okay, let's play with these. Bridger, I know why it did that. I know why it did that, because it got all reset. That's all right. We're just going to keep getting the points. We'll be fine. Let's actually, I'll keep track of them. There we go. There we go. Now we're set. Okay, I know why it did that. Anyway, and we go ahead and get some. We got our first point there. Okay, let's play with these. Bridger says, my thing keeps flipping around. Bridger says, I certainly think you can withstand working for a certain amount of time, but eventually life will make you work and put yourself in the system to be able to provide for life in some modern world. Okay, I like that. So let me support Bridger's take there for a moment. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to do jack ever. All right? You're not forced to work. You're not forced to do this, that, and the other. No. Eventually, though, you get hungry. Eventually, though, you get cold. And at a certain point, you have to figure out how to acquire food, shelter, money, all that sort of stuff. And in this modern world, that entails work. So while you are not forced to work, life circumstances dictate work, right? Okay, Faith, that's interesting because you can't really make, you can make a person really work. They can quit when they want. Okay, so Faith, yes, you can quit. And they can quit too. All right? They can quit too. However, what happens when you quit? Well, okay, so let's play with this for a moment. Maybe some of you are doing tuition assistance, okay? So if you are in a tuition assistance program, tuition reimbursement program, it may be that the program requires you that once you get your degree, you continue to work for the company for, say, 2 years, okay? And if you don't stay with the company for those 2 years, you have to reimburse the company for the tuition payments that they made. This is a very, very common HR thing. Therefore, it's a retention tool, right? Well, now these people, they are poor as all get out. They have no savings, no money. And furthermore, they owe their soul to the company store. They are in hock up to their eyeballs to the company. And if you cannot pay your debts at this time, you go to jail. So, sure, they can totally quit and go to jail. So once again, it's kind of like, no one's forcing you to work for me, but the alternatives are not very attractive. Faith goes on to say, and even if they never quit, no one can force them to work in a way that is benefiting the company. Each person gets to decide that. Now, here's the thing where I agree with you, Faith. If you get a skill set, which you're totally doing because, et voilà, vous sont ici maintenant. Vous êtes ici. I got my conjugation of être wrong. Anyway, you're here because you want to increase your skill sets because you want to have more options. Totally good idea. These poor sods, though, have no options. The only thing they know is coal mining. And Clifford owns the coal mine and everything around it. And they are not mobile. They can't just pick up and move because they have no car, they have no means of movement and so forth, they have no money. So they are really stuck right where they are. So Bridger connects this up with capital. Oh, by the way, Faith, you totally got us some points there. What am I doing? Okay, Bridger says where capital money is almost neat, even if it's not millions. Yes. You're getting it, right? Since Clifford has all the capital, the factory, the mines, the stores, the housing, the money, everything, and the workers have none of that capital, and they even owe capital to Clifford, they have no recourse. They have no options. They have no opportunities. And one of the important things of capitalism is that access to capital creates opportunity. And in these early stages of capitalism, we're talking the nascent stages here, not everybody had access to capital. And we see the results here. So yeah, great job of connecting that up. Jake, I think they are forced to work because when you are indebted to someone, yeah, it's kind of a form of indentured servitude. I think that life circumstance force you to find employment. However, I don't think it's necessarily forced labor because people choose to do so. Okay, this is really good, right? You guys are getting this. Oh man, oh no, not that one. Okay. No. Gosh darn it. There we are. I'm going to give you guys a whole bunch of points, but you have to put up with that. Yeah, that's your brain today. You're doing great. There's exploitation of circumstances, right? This is what you make me think of here as not necessarily forced labor because they are choosing to do so. They are choosing to do so. However, the circumstances allow them to be exploited. Yeah, very good. Michelle, I would say for those who are stable enough, they're not forced to work. Yeah, if they're stable, right? It's kind of like, think about this. If you're living at home, I'm just saying if you are, let's play with me for a moment, right? If you're living at home, you're not forced to live at home. You can leave anytime. The door is over there. And you're like, well, yes, I know I can leave at any time, but I can't. I can't afford rent. I can't buy a home. I can't do this, that, and the other, and so forth. So home is giving me. So even though I am not forced to stay at home, I don't have a chain on my ankle. Circumstances are such that I really can't. And that's what they're facing here. More stability financially, yes. And that anyone is forcing them, they are forcing themselves. I like, okay. Oh my gosh, you guys are good. I like the idea that sometimes we force ourselves to get stuff that we don't even need. I'm going to save this for my rant. I have a rant coming. I'm going to save this for my rant. Stuff we don't even need. Okay. Bring a real life example. I know so many people who complain they're going to work, but then they complain that they don't have enough hours. Oh my gosh. Yes. Complain that they have to work and then complain that they're not getting enough hours. Which is it, right? Oh, I love it. I love it. Okay. You guys are on fire today. And that just is awesomeness. All right, let's keep going. Sounds like my wife's coworkers. Oh gosh, yeah, it's so true. Plan 9 from Outer Space. I didn't watch that this Halloween. I should have. Okay. One of the things that Clifford brings up is he says there is an absolute gulf between the ruling and serving classes. I really like this. This whole sentence says volumes. There is an absolute gulf. Absolute means you can't change this. This is decreed by the universe and the heavens. It is an absolute thing. Gulf is a gap, but it's not just a gap. It's a chasm. A gulf is a huge chasm. So there is an absolute, unchangeable, unalterable chasm between the, and then it says, ruling classes and the serving classes. So first of all, there are classes that you belong to, and you can't change that. And one class rules and the other class serves. Now, you and I both know we don't abide with this, right? This is America. We don't do this crap. But this thinking not only was prevalent in the day, but is still prevalent, or at least we see the residue of this thinking today quite often, or so I believe. Okay? He goes on to say something, says a couple of things. First of all, he says, the masses are unalterable. This is the serving class. It is one of the most monumentous facts of social science. Panem and circenses, bread and circuses. We're going to talk about that. Only today, education is one of the bad substitutes for circuses. What is wrong today is that we've made a profound hash of the circuses part of this program and poisoned our masses with a little education. Okay, this is where the comments that you guys said are coming back. Right, where talking about education, the role of education, that was Shane, more education, more income, and so forth. And then Julie has some comments there, caused problems for him if he gave all his money. Remember that? Okay, so let's break down what he's talking about here. All right. First of all, let's talk about bread and circuses. Bread and circuses is the idea that ordinary people like you and me, we're ordinary folks. We can be easily distracted from our unfortunate state through entertainment. So in the old Roman Colosseums and so forth, so long as you give them, gladiator shows and circuses, and they would throw bread up into the stands, so long as you give them bread and circuses, they will be distracted from their unfortunate lot in life. I like to think of the lyric from Billie Eilish, her song TV. The internet's gone wild watching movie stars on trial while they're overturning Roe v. Wade. Now, regardless of how you feel about Roe v. Wade or star trials, the principle holds water, right? This is bread and circuses. We are watching these trials of, Johnny Depp and Hurley. No, not Hurley. Gosh, I forget her name, his ex-wife. Anyway, while at the same time, they're making really important decisions, right? And there we go, Amber Heard. Thank you. Yes, Amber Heard. That's the one. They're making really important decisions that affect us at a really, really physiological way. A very basic way, and yet we're too busy watching all this stuff over here. That's the bread and circuses. Now, he also says that education has made a hash of this program, right? So he says we're poisoning the masses with a little education. There's another quote from Alexander Pope, and he says, a little knowledge is what he said, but a little learning, a little knowledge is a dangerous thing. Now, why is education or knowledge or learning dangerous to the ruling classes. Let me rephrase that. As the masses, the serving class, as you and I acquire more insight, knowledge, and education, why is that dangerous, according to Clifford? Why is that dangerous to the ruling classes? Let's play with that idea for a moment. And here we go. Okay, excellent comments. Let's start off with, here we go. Jake, if the masses start to understand the degree to which they are exploited, strikes may develop among the masses because of the knowledge or learning they have gained. Okay, this is you're just totally petting one of my grand beliefs, right? At the very beginning of the semester, you don't remember it, it's all right. But at the very beginning of the semester, I maintained that education and classes like the class we're taking right now, they are the red pill, the blue pill. The blue pill is in the Matrix. By taking the blue pill, you saw the Matrix for what it was, and that knowledge was power. I believe strongly that knowledge is power on many, many levels, and an education reduces the opportunity for others to exploit you. I really strongly believe that if we're not educated, if we don't think things out, if we do not practice critical thinking, we run the serious risk of becoming sheep to be sheared by those in power. So we don't want that, or at least I don't want that. I don't think you do either. Bridger, they will become equal on education standpoint. Why should they still be servants to someone if they're equal and they're not going to put up with being treated poorly? Mwah. Perfect. Yes. Absolutely, emphatically agree. Very good. Okay. Let's come back over here. And I want to talk about something that I find is really fascinating. As I speak, the video going on here in the background is a clip from Metropolis. And the idea in Metropolis, and what you'll see as we talk, is this guy right here. There he goes. He is the son of the factory owner, this factory that you see here. And for the very first time, he's seeing how dehumanizing this factory is. All these people are working, and as you notice, they are working like cogs. Their motions are mechanical. They have been reduced to mechanical parts in this huge machine, and it's killing them and just eating them alive, as we'll see here in a moment. So now, one of the things that Connie says is their lives are industrialized and hopeless, and so are ours. I love this. Now, as we watch this clip, it's really, really interesting. It's really easy to see how the lives of the workers are industrialized and hopeless because they're part of a heartless and soulless system, a cog in a relentless machine, and they're hopeless. Their lives are hopeless because they're desperate and without hope for a better tomorrow. And as we see here, the machine starts to blow up and it transforms into a beast, a monster that just eats them alive. So now, coming back to this, and we'll just pause that right there. It's really easy to see how the workers' lives are industrialized and hopeless, but I think it's really fascinating that Connie, who is rich, and her husband, who is rich, it's fascinating to see that she believes that her life is industrialized and hopeless. And if you look at the definition, well, industrialized, part of a heartless and soulless system, a cog in a relentless machine. Even if you're an owner, you're still part of the machine. You are still a cog in an overall system, as she sees it. And you have no hope out of this. You know, I find that really interesting. Looks like the environment at the call center I used to work at. Oh my gosh. You know what? I laugh, but I don't doubt it. I don't doubt it. So I just find that really fascinating. Of course, Clifford says we need to keep the form of life intact, meaning everybody know your place. You just stay in your lane. Stay in your lane. I hate staying in my lane. Okay. So that is Lady Chatterley's Lover. Okay. Next, we're going to talk about Man and Machine. But before we talk about Man and Machine, we're going to have a little break. And today's break, I think, is going to be a rant.
I want you to get up now. I want all of you to get up out of your chairs. I want you to get up right now and go to the window, open it, and stick your head out and yell, "I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore!"
So, one of the things that we've been kind of talking about here is you become a slave to money because you want stuff and you need things. But as we're going to see in a future lecture, we start to want things that you don't need. You don't need. And yet, the more you have to work to maintain what you have and to get the things you don't have. We stop wanting the things we have and only want the things we don't have. And so what ends up happening, people, is we end up working our asses off, and yet we are constantly in arrears. We are constantly behind. The profit motive is forcing us forward and yet not bringing us any more happiness. The more stuff we buy, we're still unhappy. And yet we have to work for all this. And it freaking drives me nuts. Drives me nuts. I'm in this boat. You're in this boat. So there's my rant. I hope you got a good stretch out of that. I did. Because I like ranting. All right. Oh, we'll put this back up. Boom. Okay. So now we got Gandhi. This is an essay that I had never seen before this course when I started teaching it a decade or so ago. Man and Machine. And it's really talking about automation. Okay. We work, but a lot of stuff is automated. And Gandhi has some real issues with this. Now, if we think back to Marx and Smith, both of them, both Karl Marx, the communist, and Adam Smith, the capitalist, both said we have real problems we need to address in capitalism. And that is that it's dehumanizing, that if you just spend your life doing these small, simple tasks and so forth, that you will become as stupid as is possible for the human beast to become, right? As Adam Smith would say. And so we automate a lot of things, but automation comes at a cost, according to Gandhi. And this is what I want to explore. It's a question of what do we value. So in the West, in capitalism, we value efficiency. And let me go on the record to say that I adore efficiency. Of course, I produce videos and so forth, and I'm learning a lot of ways that artificial intelligence and the way that it's been applied to the Adobe Creative Cloud and its suite and so forth makes inefficient tasks more efficient. I love that, okay? Efficiency allows us to produce more with less, but this includes less labor, okay? Productivity is the objective of efficiency, not labor. If we can reduce labor and increase productivity, efficiency requires this. Okay? So that's placing the emphasis on efficiency. However, Gandhi places the emphasis on labor. All right? He is concerned about our devaluing labor. He feels that labor is noble and that there is value in the role of work. And this includes over-engineered hierarchical processes. So as we see in the picture here, ton of paperwork. Is that efficient? Hell no. That's not efficient at all. But it provides labor. So Gandhi's fixation with capitalism is that it devalues human labor in favor of efficiency and higher productivity. But in devaluing human labor, you are in essence devaluing humans. You are devaluing that which makes us human. And so the idea for Gandhi that you would replace a human being with a machine is unconscionable. The mere thought of that makes him ill, okay? Now, there's a lot of reasons he believes this, and he explains it in his essay, but one of them he talks about is a groaning world. In other words, there's a lot of people out there. There's a lot of people. Now, check this out. India is the second most populous country in the world. And Gandhi is in India, so this is where he's coming from. All right? So I want to support his point here for a moment. The United States has somewhere around a little over 300 million people. 300 million, okay? India, by contrast, has something like 1.5 or something, Google it, billion, all right? 300 million in the United States, and then 1.5 billion in India. All right. In other words, India has something like 3 or 4 times as many people as we do. All right. Now, with that in context, our unemployment rate is about 3% nationally, 3.2%, something like that, 2.6 here in Utah. Anyway, let's just say 3%, which means of our 300 million people, about 3% are unemployed. India, if they were only employing 300 million people, would have an unemployment rate of, 400%. In other words, they need to find work for all these people. So where you and I look at work that is busy work and bureaucratic work and not value add, Gandhi says, no, we've got to find work for all these folks because we've got a lot of them and work is noble. Doesn't matter what kind of work. Everybody should have the right to work and put food on the table. So that's kind of his thought in that regard. If we continue on, the machine he liked is the Singer sewing machine. He actually likes some machines. Here's his logic with the Singer sewing machine. He actually calls it a love story. The idea is that Singer one day came home and saw his wife sewing, and it's painful, it's arduous, and she's pricking her feet. It's hard. Hand sewing clothing is difficult. And he said, I love my wife. I don't want her doing this crap. So he went off and invented the sewing machine to make her work more enjoyable. Here's what is important to Gandhi. The sewing machine did not replace his wife. The sewing machine made his wife's work more fulfilling. So for Gandhi, any machine that makes labor more fulfilling, that's a good machine. He likes those machines. But a machine that is developed to replace labor, this is what he has a problem with. Okay. Now, another thing he talks about is the centralized versus decentralized nature of capitalism and how it affects happiness. Let me explain, okay? He says the ultimate goal of work is happiness, all right? That's the goal. The Singer sewing machine made his wife's labor more enjoyable, but didn't replace her. So the goal is happiness. Well, he says in a decentralized system, the end to be sought is human happiness combined with full mental and moral growth. This end can be achieved under decentralization. Now, what he means by decentralization is kind of what's going on right now. Let me show you centralization first, and then let me make my point. Centralization, he says, centralization is a system inconsistent with nonviolent structure of society. Okay, here's my assertion. A centralized system is one in which there are bosses, rulers, and employees, the serving class. And these two sides are going to be at blows no matter what. You're going to have corporations wanting to bleed employee dry. You're going to have unions that are shaking down companies for more and more benefits and money and so on and so forth. And whether right or wrong, it doesn't matter. They are at odds. In a centralized system, they're at odds. On the other hand, he says, in a decentralized system, things are fine. What does he mean by decentralized? He means people working out of their homes. It's what we had before the Industrial Revolution. Remember, before the Industrial Revolution, people were working out of their homes, producing and so on and so forth. But then the great big huge machines came along and had to bring everybody into factories, bringing about centralized labor and this dilemma that Gandhi's talking about. Well, if we're all working out of our homes doing gig work, there are no bosses, there's no ruling class, there's no serving class. It's everybody is producing and finding joy and happiness in producing. This is why you think it'd be kind of cool to start your own business one day, and you should, okay? Or you do some gig work now and again to bring in some extra money and not have to be, beholden to a boss and schedule and things like that. More and more people today are producing out of their homes and contributing to this newly emerging decentralized system. And as a result, employment is high, unemployment is low, and employers are having to make new deals with employees to keep them around, as we've seen with the writer strike and the automobile strike and all that sort of stuff. So, yeah, what we see Gandhi talking about, it's kind of happening today in reverse. All right. Let's go on. We only have a bit of time left, and I want to talk about something. I want to end on this one of humans need not apply. This is a great little video by G.P. Gray, I think it is. It's an old video. It's like 6 or 7 years old now. But in a recent Q&A that I saw with him, he maintains that he stands by most of his assertions here. Nevertheless, he makes the case that the machines are taking over. And again, this was 5 or 6 years ago. Folks, the machines are taking over. It's not just the robots, it's now artificial intelligence and so forth. There is not a single endeavor that is not being affected in some way or another by machines, by robots. So this is what I want to ask real quick, okay? Any and all answers can be explored, but this is something I want to end on. What can you do, or what will you be able to do? So I'm talking about you. I'm not talking in the abstract, in theory. I'm talking about you. What can you do, or what will you be able to do following education, training, experience, things like that a machine or a computer or a robot cannot do? What can you do? What will you be able to do that a machine or a computer or a robot cannot do? What will make you valuable in this world of automation? Let's play with that idea for a few minutes and then we'll explore it. Yes, I know why it did that. Okay. We've got great comments. Let's see here. Okay, first of all, finding empathy. Absolutely. Empathy is everything. And a lot of the other comments kind of follow the theme of empathy. Empathy is everything. All right. Empathy is relationships. Empathy is trust. Empathy is connection. Empathy is human. No machine out there is even close to understanding, let alone showing empathy. So I'm finding empathy for another person. Absolutely. Connect with a customer, with a relationship of trust. Absolutely. Free thinking human, and I'm sorry, we got to keep these going. So yeah. Free thinking humans are able to adapt. Right. Yes. So adaption. Yeah. Machines are made for a specific task, even if that task is astounding. It's made for a task. So, go ahead and ask, ChatGPT to do the dishes. You'd be surprised how much trouble it has doing that. On a personal level, absolutely. It's all about the personal level, the meaningful level. On creativity, this is a huge thing. Most ideas built around the history of previous examples and also have emotional value and so forth. Creativity is an interesting thing. If you want to check it out, so check out a video. There's a video producer out there called Patrick H. Willems. It's like William. So Patrick H. Willems, like that. And he's a producer, makes videos and a critic and so forth. And he recently did a video about AI. And he talked about how AI is being used in movies and videos and so on and so forth. He explored this deeply because, and there's no easy answer. On one hand, creativity is absolutely a new thing, right? It's a human thing. I agree with you, Shane. On the other hand, all creativity is also based in part on what you have seen done previously, right? So every aspect of my live stream experience, some of it's rooted in the retro, some of it's rooted in modern color schemes and so forth. Some of it is rooted in Dadaism. And these are all things that have influenced me to create something hopefully somewhat unique. So it's an interesting dynamic there. I think the robot waiters, yeah, they're going to actually start popping up here pretty soon. I totally agree with you. They can't understand your emotions. Nope, you're absolutely right. There's some interesting studies out there that have been done about nurses, robot nurses. And robot nurses are not, patients don't like the robot nurses because they can't connect with them. Emotions, empathy, things like that. So absolutely excellent. I'm going to point you in a couple of directions that I'd like to invite you to explore. There's this one video called, it's a TED Talk, called Why Are There Still So Many Jobs? And this gentleman here, David Otto, makes the case for why there will always be a need for humans. Always. And he talks about a couple of principles here, the O-ring principle and the never get enough principle, which is basically the profit motive. So Google, why are there still so many jobs, TED Talk, and you can check that out. It's really fascinating. There's no cancel. And then there's what's this guy's Oliver. Something Oliver. Oh, I forget his full name. If you know his name, put it in there. In any case, he has This Week with something Oliver. It's on HBO, but all the things are on YouTube now. And he has a video. The video is but it's worth watching. He says that the jobs that are protected is if you can do a series of non-routine tasks that require social intelligence and complex critical thinking and creative problem solving. Check this out, people. Series of non-routine tasks. Okay, so if one of you mentioned, we are more flexible, we are more agile, we are more adaptable. So non-routine, we have no problem. That requires social intelligence, that's the relationships, that's the empathy, that's the human-to-human, personal, emotional side. And complex critical thinking, which is what this class and education is all about, critical thinking, and creative problem solving, which, as you pointed out, Shane, creativity and creative problem solving, as asserted here, is absolutely a human endeavor. So I think this is important to think about, folks, because, and I want to scare you, you have to go out now and for the next 30 to 40 years earn money. I'm just trying to make sure I can stay competitive for the next 10 years. I've only got 10 years in front of me. And the changes that we're going to see and the challenges to my job and to how I contribute to the economy are going to be substantial in the next 10 years. That's nothing compared to the next 30 to 40 years when you poor sods need to go out there and be competitive in the economy. So be adaptable. Look for those opportunities to leverage the things that make you human and bring those to the workplace and stay on top of technology. Learn the artificial intelligence tools. They're all over the place now. They're all over the place. Learn them, use them. You need to leverage them. Okay? All right. All I'm going to do for you on the next one, there's the employer's view of the labor question by Andrew Carnegie. Do this. Is that the one? There we go. Take a picture of this slide or come back to it later. Carnegie's 4 steps to ensuring industrial peace, peaceful, industrial peace. Carnegie wanted industrial peace because it would make money. I'm thinking I'm going to change this chapter because, frankly, Carnegie writes a really interesting, compelling essay here that he doesn't practice at all. The hypocrisy is just biblical. And I don't want to perpetrate that anymore. So I'm going to go ahead and change this in the future. But for the test and for the questions and so forth, just make sure you have that and you're good to go. Okay? So, there we are. As always, please send me an email to remind me that you were here. We had some really good input and so forth. So we're getting the full points. We're gonna get all the way up to the 15 today. So yeah, totally gonna get the full points. And let's see, is our final online? Our final is online. It's all online. When the time comes, I'll send you a link to a final review and you'll be in good shape. Maybe we'll even do something here. But yeah, online, open note, open book, no time limit. You'll be fine. All right? So good question. Very good question. I will stick around if you have any other questions that pop up there, and I'll go ahead and answer them in the chat. Otherwise, you guys have a fantastic rest of your week, and we'll see you on the flip side. All right, have a good one.